Ambassador Mike Hackabee, welcome to Israel and thank you for the opportunity.
Honor to be with you and thank you for visiting with me today.
Thank you. So I would like to begin in what we've heard in the past 24 hours. There has been some confusion in Israel due to some supposedly contradicting statements by President Trump. I'm not only talking about the Houthis, I'm talking about Iran. In one statement, he said that you are about to blow up the centrifuges. You're going to do it in a friendly manner or in a non-friendly manner. He said it to It podcast. And shortly after, he said that the U.S. hasn't made a decision yet whether or not it's going to allow Iran to enrich uranium. Can you clarify the administration's position about the centrifuges and uranium enrichment?
What I would tell you is this, that when the president makes statements, always take the strongest statement as the most likely one. If I were Iran, I would believe when he said, you're not going to have nuclear capability. And that was a statement he's made repeatedly. And he even used the term dismantlement. So the president has been very consistent about this. When he spoke last week on the way to Rome for the Pope's funeral, a reporter on Air Force One asked him, Mr. President, is Israel going to drag America into a war? And I thought his answer was very revealing. He said, nobody's going to drag us into anything. But if Iran doesn't step down from this nuclear ambition, we won't be dragged in. We will lead the effort. And I think that's the position the president has been most consistently articulating in his first term and in his second term.
And regarding the Houthis, it's been done, as far as I know, without notifying Israel about the negotiations with the Houthis, and it made us feel as if we were sidelined in that issue, as if there is an agreement between the United States and the Houthis, and perhaps something we are unaware of with Iran. And this agreement allows the Houthis to continue launching missiles to Israel and even attack Israeli vessels.
What happened this week was fairly simple. There wasn't a big peace treaty. There wasn't any signed agreement. It was a simple matter that the Houthis themselves initiated and said, you know what, we will leave your ships alone. We don't want to deal with your shipping lanes anymore. And would you just quit firing at us? And the United States said, if you'll leave us alone, we'll leave you alone for now. But there's no permanency to this. And I don't think it was done in any way. And in fact, I can say categorically, there was nothing done here to surprise the Israelis. It was done without regard to whatever issues that Israel is having to take on its own, which it took this week very effectively, by the way, destroying the airport in Yemen and destroying their cement plant and electrical facilities. Separate the two. Because one is simply letting American ships go without being hit by missiles and rockets, and that was important to the president. It does not mean that he is not deeply concerned about the potential of the Houthis continuing their efforts to kill Israelis. The president knows this. 700,000 Americans live in Israel. He doesn't want one of them to get hurt. And if they do, all bets are off.
By the way, is the agreement with the Houthis is related to any international ships or only U.S. vessels?
I am not aware of the extent of it. I know that it certainly applies to U.S. ships because that was where the Houthis were aiming particularly. It's what was giving us the heartburn was they kept firing on our ships. And the president said, you better stop it. You know, the Houthis took him more seriously than the Iranians seem to be sometimes. And the Iranians would be smart to take President Trump very seriously when they're toying with the idea, whether it's to hurt Israel or hurt America.
And you know, there is one country in the region that has suffered more damage from the Houthis than Israel. That's Egypt. Yeah. And it seems that if you bring peace to the Red Sea, they are the main beneficiaries, but they continue to refuse to cooperate with President Trump's plan regarding Gaza. Is there any news either about Egypt or any other country regarding the evacuation of the Gaza Strip?
I think it's unfair to say the Egyptians have not been helpful, because the Egyptians have tried very diligently to help us end the hostage crisis. Everybody wants that to happen. Not just America, not just Israel, everybody wants that to happen. And the Egyptians have been helpful in trying to explain and persuade Hamas that it is in their best interest, whatever interest they think they have, to end this. So the Egyptians have certainly had very large concerns. They don't want to take large amounts of refugees into Egypt, and I understand why they would be reluctant to do that. They don't need any more trouble. Nobody wants any more trouble. So at some point, people in Gaza are going to have to be given the freedom to leave and go to places that would say, we welcome you, we want you, we need you. And there are places around the world that need the workforce, that need people to come. Gaza is not going to be a place where a lot of people can continue to live, because thanks to Hamas, and it only is because of Hamas, that Gaza has become an absolute hellhole.
But you know, we've heard President Trump says before he entered his second term that the gates of hell will be unleashed upon Gaza if the hostages are not released by his inauguration day. And we are past the inauguration day, and now we hear the president speaks about humanitarian aid to Gaza. Is it maybe because he's losing patience for Israel? Has he been disappointed by the fact that we didn't initiate a major campaign, a major ground operation in Gaza?
No, I don't think the president is any way disappointed or unhappy with Israel. He recognizes that Israel has been in an incredibly difficult situation with all these hostages, Hamas digging in and not being willing to be reasonable about not only their release, but even about the care that they get while they're there. The president is not upset with Israel. The president is very upset with Hamas. And when the president talks about the gates of hell, I think what he's saying is that Hamas has no future. And I've heard him say this repeatedly. If Hamas thinks somehow they're going to hang on, dig in, they'll have a role in governing Gaza, they'll have some future there, the president's made it clear, no, they won't. They're not going to have a role. The president saw the videotape that was taped by the terrorists themselves. He saw that. You can't unsee it. You cannot get to a point in your life where you ever are not affected by the savagery, by the absolute atrocities that were committed by Hamas. There's no going back. There's no coming to a place where we say, let's make peace with Hamas. I don't think that's on the table.
Okay, and I also want to ask you a theoretical question. Israel has agreed to make immense concessions regarding the hostages. Would you think that the U.S. would agree to do the same if in a similar situation?
The U.S. is going to follow Israel's lead when it comes to the hostage situation. We certainly have Americans that we want to get out, and that's going to be front and center. It is front and center for all of us. But we also recognize that it was Israel that was attacked on October the 7th. It was primarily Israelis that numbered the highest in those 1,200 people that were massacred. And we're not going to second-guess everything Israel does. The previous administration did that. And they would say on one day, we're with Israel 100%, the next day, but we don't like the way they're prosecuting the war. That's not what you've heard from President Trump. Not ever. You don't hear that from him. He recognizes that Israel is a sovereign nation. They've got to make tough decisions. None of them will be perfect, but I think all of us deeply believe that the Israeli government and the Israeli people want the hostages home, but they also want Hamas forever, permanently destroyed and disengaged from Gaza.
Okay, and the president is about to arrive in the region, not in Israel, next week. Is there a chance that the U.S. is about to advance the Abraham peace accords without Israel?
Oh, you can't have Abraham peace accords without Israel, because all of the accords are about tying nations that have been hostile to a point of peace and cooperation and collaboration with Israel. So there's no way to say, oh, we're going to expand the Abraham Accords. Israel's not a part. Israel is going to be a part of all of the expansion of the Abraham Accords. That's the very foundation of it.
Okay, and I would also like to ask you about your visit to Judea and Samaria. it seems that you have a very special bond to Israel, something that goes far beyond politics and diplomacy. Can you elaborate about your visit, which is, I think, unprecedented for an incumbent U.S. ambassador, and about how this bond to Israel came to be, and whether or not it's related to your roots in a small town in Arkansas?
It very much is related to my roots, but it's related to my first visit here 52 years ago, in 1973, just before the Yom Kippur War. I came as a teenager, fell in love with this country, came to realize it's a very special place. It's a place that God put here. He created it for his people. He chose a plan, and he chose a purpose. I respect that. For over 3,500 years, this land has been a place that God has said, my people shall live. So the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob should be able to inhabit the land that God gave them. I didn't really think of my visit to the ancient city of Shiloh as being all that significant or important, because I was just simply visiting one of the most important biblical sites in the whole world, where the tabernacle was for 369 years and where Hannah prayed for her son Samuel, who was born. It's an extraordinary place. I enjoyed getting to visit with people from Judea and Samaria. And, you know, it's an incredible journey for me over 52 years of coming here over 100 times and now being ambassador, to be able to watch the resilience of the Israeli people, to see their grit, their determination. But I also remember the words of Golda Meir back in the 70s when I first came. And she said, Israel has a secret weapon. They have nowhere else to go. And I respect that, and I honor it, and I salute it.
Ambassador Mike Hackabee, thank you very much for this opportunity.
My pleasure. Great to visit with you.
Thank you.